that I think is probably one of the more interesting intersections, and maybe how we start if we're focusing on police brutality. Um, he had, presuming this will probably be caught live anyway. So um, it was basically a really stringent attack on two fronts, because apparently cops went completely and totally batshit crazy on a peaceful protest in the Bronx, which of course is where he's from and where he lives. And he showed pure gaslighting from both de Blasio and Cuomo that was not that far off of how Trump deals with this shit. Especially Cuomo, who was, so somebody asked him, a reporter asked him a question about that, and he started calling it a partisan attack. Like it was terrifying. It was the Biden getting asked about a subpoena, saying he would just ignore it type feeling, right?
Right.
Like we can't all just slip. And he had another guest on that had basically written a book about the descent into fascism, and she was talking about how the mayor, specifically the mayor of Minneapolis and New York, elected as reformers, as progressives, right?
Right.
How quickly they attached themselves to the fascist narrative of the other enemy, like the outside enemy, in the form of Antifa, or even just people coming in from out of state or whatever, as if those people don't have any voice.
Right.
And how that, that's normal. And then of course you wrap the entire thing around the fact that, the descent into fascism is always which military body is going to support the tin pot dictator the most. And how many times are we going to see secret police on the streets? And now that is just what it is. And they played Bill Barr getting asked questions about this, and he's like, yeah, well, sometimes we just have fucking secret police. What? Like it was weird. I don't remember the direct quote, but it was basically just playing it off. Like sometimes what they probably don't want to identify themselves. Like, yeah, that's how Nazis in masks do, you fucking asshole. Like it was amazing, and all just quiet and calm, and anyway. So yeah, that all happened.
Yeah. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hashtag Coffee on the So Local Live Network and here on YouTube. I am Greg Smithwick, even though it says Corey Cottrell, because I keep forgetting to change that. And that's Corey Cottrell, because he's actually Corey Cottrell. First thing, happy fucking birthday, man.
Whatever. Thank you. Is what I meant to say. Thank you.
This is why I waited, because I know how excited you are about birthdays in general, and probably this one in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm old. Well, older, and yeah, that's the thing. Like, I was telling you off air, and I had mixed feelings about it, but not enough to change what I was gonna do. Like when it's your birthday on Facebook and you have 3,000 Facebook friends, your Facebook turns into, everybody gets notices, hey, it's Corey's birthday, and everybody does the perfunctory little like happy birthday, blah blah blah, right? Which is whatever, it's fine. But because of that, it creates a dramatic amount more visibility for my personal page.
Oh.
And knowing that, I decided to change my banner picture to, please Google the Lincoln Project, because Republicans hate Trump. My profile picture was about gratitude, because I wanted to, give with one hand and smash with the other. But then the rest of it, like this River Massey guy started, and he's got like 30 of them up, examples of police brutality, and they're dark, like they're fucking really bad. And so I started sharing a bunch of them, specifically because I knew far more people would see it. And so, yeah, happy birthday to me, but let's maybe not descend into pure unadulterated police state fascism, please.
Ginny says, Corey, you haven't learned to change your birthday a week prior? Hashtag no notifications.
I have not. Damn. Smart.
Yeah.
River Massey.
I feel special. I don't know. I like it when people on Facebook wish me happy birthday. Makes me feel,
don't get me wrong, it's nice. Special. Like it really is nice. But I mean, I would say like 80% of those people I never interact with.
Right.
And they probably, and I'm tired of this. I don't want to be thinking about this anymore. And I know that, other people are feeling the same thing, but I just wanted to kind of rub all of our faces in it.
Right.
So yeah, this birthday is not ideal. And Bob's your uncle.
I spent most of yesterday going after people for their heinous racist posts on Facebook, which was far less satisfying than I'd hoped it would be. It basically leads to hours and hours of disappointment and horror at the things people sign off on. And honestly, most of the messages I sent yesterday were to people who had mutual friends with people that were posting heinous shit. Like, hey, do you know this person is posting this kind of crap? Then they're on your friends list, right? And we all know people that are not friends, not people we spend time socializing with, especially those of us with a public face. They're just people, music people, bar and restaurant people, people related to the So Local Pasco podcast, who I'm shocked to find out haven't figured this out yet, that the problem here is police brutality. It's the police. The police are the vector for all of the problems that we're seeing. That they just are. They just are. And that, like, and I'm not going to be at all surprised when Chris Hayes does a Why Is This Happening podcast, which is a really great podcast, by the way, that you should check out, where they deep dive into the idea of eradicating police forces, because this is an amazing thing. Like, it's like I saw your eyes wide, right? It's like UBI. It's like UBI. It sounds crazy when you say it, right? But the more you look at it, the more you recognize that, yeah.
And even like as a and I haven't looked at that idea fully, and I'm super interested in it for sure, because there's clearly an accruing of power, and I've been learning about this over the last 2 weeks, that basically stems from police unions, right?
Right.
Chris Hayes actually talked about this on his show last night too. Like the heads of police unions in these specific places were basically completely and totally for these cops not getting off of murder, but keeping their jobs.
Yes.
And the kinds of things that are getting said in public from them are just disgusting, racist, and insane.
Right.
So that clearly has become a malignant force.
That's easy for you to say.
That has way it was not way too much power. So defunding it, I think, is interesting, but I think, like, even as a compromise position, and I do want to learn more about that because I'm interested to see sort of what their sort of end game is there, because you can't just like do away with the idea of police in general, at least not in my experience. So you could just make all drugs legal, and cut all their budgets in half, or to the extent that they were making drug arrests by man hours.
Right. I'm gonna put a link in the comments right now to, I believe it is called Project Zero, Campaign Zero, and this, like, okay. There's the Pod Save America podcast that we listen to, and they have branched out and have several other sub podcasts by other people. One of those called Pod Save the People, and they had the host of that show on the other day, and like some of the numbers that he rattled off were shocking to me. Like, we've been talking on this show as if we know anything about body cams, okay? Right. And the truth is that body cams have not reduced the number of fatalities caused by police.
Are you serious?
They make, right. The only thing they do is make it more likely that a police officer will be convicted if they are tried. But we also know that only 1% of killings by police officers that are criminal in nature lead to a criminal charge. Only 1% of police killings are prosecuted. Only 1% of police killings where there is clearly a problem are prosecuted. And like, when you read through this document, the things that they're suggesting, like the agenda breaks down. The agenda is to end police violence. Over 1,000 people are killed by police violence every year in America. End broken windows policing. This is the shocker. Only 5% of all arrests made in the United States of America are for violent crimes. Right? So if we if we focus them in on those, and we defocus them from, as you say, decriminalize, drugs, public intoxication, loitering, jaywalking, disorderly conduct, prostitution. If we take police resources away from them being able to enforce those laws, then they can focus more fully on the actual violent crime that's taking place. Establish enforceable bans on police racial profiling. Establish alternative responses to mental health crises and issues like homelessness and substance abuse. Now, zooming in on this county, anytime we have a conversation about homelessness in this community, right, there seems to be two schools of thought. One is, let's give them somewhere to be and pile on social resources until they are safe and healthier and happier, or we are going to arrest our way out of homelessness. And our state legislator and at least two of our county commissioners are very much in that we're going to arrest our way out of homelessness camp. That's what they want to do. They want to try and arrest all the homeless people to get them off the street. Interestingly, when I talk to people out in the community, and I've talked to a lot of people in the community about homelessness and how they feel about the homeless, about the people who are homeless, well, they're scary. They're wandering around my neighborhood drunk and scary. And there are kids. It doesn't mean that the person has done anything scary. It means that the perception is that homeless people are scary. And it almost always has to do with property crime, littering, homeless people taking a shit on the back step of my business, right? It's unsightly. They make me uncomfortable. They stole my garden hose. They set a fire in the woods. Property crimes, not violent crimes. So, and one of the things that we've been arguing for a while now is the most expensive kind of services for the homeless are emergency services. Paramedics, hospital, emergency rooms, and police response are the most expensive kinds of service that we could give, and they do the least amount of good for the actual homeless person. So, if right. Like I don't want every beat cop to have to be a social worker. I want them to focus on taking bad people, dangerous people off of our streets, child molesters, rapists. I want rape kits tested. I don't want backlogs of rape kits. So this makes perfect sense in the same context that we see in a local problem, which is piling police onto this problem is going to make it invisible, but it does not make it go away. It's invisible because they're shipping them out of our county. They're beating the shit out of them, making them run. Like, they're making it more difficult for homeless people to put their heads up and say, hey, we need to come get some food. They follow, our sheriff's office follows people that serve the homeless communities. Why? To recon where the homeless are so they can go raid those camps later. That's not what I want my police resources in my community spent on. And I'm a middle-aged white guy. I can't even imagine what it must be like to have, your city council talk about the funding of your police department when you know that the head knocking squad is who's going to get that money. Right. So anyway, please read this document from Campaign Zero and take a look at what they say works and what doesn't work. Limiting use of force, demilitarization, end of for-profit policing, body cams and film the police, making it legal for people to film the police, right? Reimbursing people that have their cameras destroyed. Wouldn't you though? But you can actually be arrested in many places for that. Yeah, the guy that filmed Eric Garner, the guy that filmed Eric Garner's murder spent a year in jail.
Yep.
Right. So independent investigations that are not by the police agencies themselves, training of police officers. There's a stunning amount of a number here. Average police recruit spends 58 hours learning how to shoot people and only 8 hours learning how to de-escalate a situation. That number needs to be upside down.
100%.
Right. And it's because they're armed. And like, as a person that used to carry a gun on me everywhere I went, I will tell you that I'm a much better negotiator and de-escalator now than I was then, because I didn't have any fucking option. Once I stopped carrying a gun, right, not getting into a violent confrontation, somebody came down to, I have to be pretty good about, de-escalating a situation that could escalate into violence. And, that's not saying I want to turn every cop into Barney Fife with no guns, but in countries where they don't have guns, guess what? We don't have massive numbers of police killings.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if you look at the crime rate in the UK where you're not allowed to carry a gun, is it better or worse than the United States?
Say that again.
In the UK, you're not allowed to carry a gun,
right?
As a cop, right? So is the crime rate better?
Not all of them. Some do. Some do.
Like, right. Basically, like SWAT can, right?
Right.
Fine. But not everybody who's running into every situation every time is strapped.
That's correct. Right. And Dave's saying drunk and disorderly for sure needs policing, right? But it doesn't need armed policing. It doesn't need cops with guns responding. That's the point. Because in England, God help us, we know that if you're walking around certain parts of London at 2 a.m, there's a lot of shitty, violent, drunk people on the streets of London, and there are not a bunch of shitty, violent, armed cops on the streets of London. So there has to be a better way, and we could probably learn it from countries that that do that. In India, they don't even handcuff people, right?
I did not know that.
They hold their hand. The police officer holds hands with the suspect and walks them to jail.
Okay.
That's a thing.
How often does that not work?
I don't know, but
right.
Their starting philosophy is,
right.
I'm arrested. What maybe there's something in why Indian citizens are willing to walk to the jail, because they don't think they're going to get abused or tortured or the shit beat out of them or killed.
Maybe, right? As an organizing
Their
principle.
perception of police in general is different than ours. And the other thing is, police forces as a public entity are less than 200 years old. Right? The idea of a municipal police force that's paid by us to do that work is less than 200 years old. It's a new concept in the world. And we got the stats to show that we're not very good at it.
Right. Or at least there could be much better ideas that we should be looking into.
Right.
Doreen just mentioned, did y'all see the Andrew Yang's tweet thread about calling 912? I saw Chet share it. So, basically, like,
this is essentially that same thing. They're not calling for, tomorrow we're going to decommission the sheriff's office and it'll be anarchy. That's not what they're saying at all. They're saying year by year, chip away at their funding and allocate that funding to social service programs, community education programs, community support programs, so that you have less and less people that are motivated to commit crimes. Because the majority, maybe not the overwhelming, but the majority of crime is committed by people who don't have the financial means to take care of themselves, to feed themselves, to feed their drug habit, frankly, to whatever it is they need to do. Crime is occurring because they don't have the things that they need. Are there crimes that are not committed for that motive? Yeah. And let's focus police resources on those crimes: child abuse, rape, domestic violence. Let's focus on that. But at the same time, like our sheriff's office, I don't even know how many officers we have, but I will tell you, I never have an empty classroom, and there are exactly two officers certified in domestic violence training in Pasco County. 2. So if you want a qualified police officer who's been trained in how to deal specifically with domestic violence to show up at your door, in a county of 500,000, your chances are pretty low that that's who's going to come knock on your door. Right? So even within that framework, we could do a better job.
Yeah.
Right, Dave. Okay, if drunken, disorderly guys waving a gun, I want an armed officer responding. Yes,
no
problem,
though, right? Like,
but there's a follow-on problem. Is one of the things they said in the autopsy report of George Floyd is contributing factors in his death: underlying health conditions, underlying cardiovascular issues, and any potential drugs we find in his system. So they're already deciding ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly, which is insane. So did you know that he just got over COVID?
Yes.
So like his O2 stats, because like this COVID thing, everyone wants to like just wash it over and not think about it anymore. In all likelihood, it is damaging your capacity to process oxygen through your lungs permanently.
Yep.
Right. So like that's now granted, like it doesn't matter because they were on his back for another fucking 3 minutes after the fact. But like it's terrifying to me that, what should absolutely be changed, normal policing, could accidentally kill way more people now.
Right.
And again, this is only an incidental interesting thing, because honestly, they were on his back for another 3 minutes. And
well, for all we know, Julius Caesar might have died of an underlying condition, like the need to have blood inside his body.
Yep.
It wasn't necessarily the 27 stab wounds that killed him.
Yeah, it's all fun and games till you're a pincushion.
I mean, it turns out that a lot of these buildings that got burned in the looting had pre-existing fire vulnerabilities.
Yeah, sorry. Dave said, I'm not going to get lumped in with the police apologist for making an observation discussion. I didn't mean to. If I made that sound like that, Dave, that's not what I meant. I want to separate it out as an idea, right? Like a gun situation is a gun situation, whether somebody is drunk and disorderly or not.
Right.
Right. So like kind of just trying to separate that out to start imagining what it would look like to have a drastically different sort of culture around use of force and policies for the same.
Ginny makes a really good point. If you don't pass the psychology test to be a state trooper, you shouldn't be allowed to apply for a county sheriff's position. 100%. How is that not a standardized? How is there not a national standard?
Exactly.
I'm not qualified to be a state trooper, but Port Richey will hire me. And we've had some cops on the Port Richey force that were of questionable mental stability, one that had problems for years, up and down from sergeant to patrolman for like a decade or more. I went to high school with him. And I'll tell you something about that guy. If there had been a category, we would have voted him most likely to become a rooftop sniper. He was nuts when we were in school, and he became a Port Richey cop, and he was on their force for, over a decade, at least 15 years, before they finally removed him. So, yeah, the standards for training need to be standardized.
One idea I've seen is that you can have a registry. So if you get any credible complaint against you whatsoever, it gets put on a third-party website and gets connected to your badge number.
Right.
So that you come to my house as a policeman, my first thing is, yeah, I'm absolutely going to do whatever it is that you need me to do. Please hold.
Right.
And Google the motherfucker.
Right. Yeah. Now, and okay, so there's a couple of related things to that. This conversation is going to branch. There's going to be a lot of stuff.
There's
the Fort Lauderdale cop the other day that was shown on video pushing a girl down and then was chased off of her by a black female officer. I don't know if you saw that. But she was furiously angry that he had pushed this girl, and so she chased him up. So what got famous was the picture of her, rousting him off the scene and pointing him out. 71 complaints against this Fort Lauderdale police officer in 4 years. He'd been in 4 years. He had drawn his weapon in the line of duty 51 times.
Jesus. Okay.
He's comically bad cop, and he had been a state trooper, and we haven't yet seen what his record was as a Florida state trooper, right? And I'm sure they bounced him for this exact same thing. But here's the other thing: the idea that we know how many complaints against him there were and how many times he drew his weapon in the line of duty is not standardized. It just so happens that the Fort Lauderdale Police Department decided they had a big enough problem that they needed to, or the people of Fort Lauderdale decided they needed to see those records. And that's not standardized. I don't have a way to go out and check on any given cop with the sheriff's office and find out how many times they've faced disciplinary action, how many times they've drawn their weapon in the line of duty. Those are trends that we should be able to access and pay attention to.
Could you go and check on Bill Barr's secret police to see who the actual fuck they are?
Let's talk about masking tape over badges, black tape over badges, badge numbers covered with little black strips. Why is that happening? So they can't be held accountable, and they fucking know it, and they're protected by their police unions, by the police departments, and I hate to say this, by you and me. When we don't make a stink about bad policing, when we try to hero worship all cops, we're part of the problem. Well, and there's a lot of people in our community that have been well served by our sheriff's office that are completely willing to ignore the stories that I hear from homeless people about having their phones destroyed, about having their tents slashed and run over. There could be somebody in that tent. We have sheriff's vehicles flying through homeless camps once in a while and throwing people's shit in lakes and setting it on fire, but they take good care of us when we call them for a rowdy person at the bar. There needs to be civilian accountability for that. There needs to be a civilian structure that polices the police.
Well, that's like there. I guess in some cities there's like elected oversight commissions, which is another interesting thing. But like at some point, even places with oversight commissions, they're basically the elected people that are fighting the legal power of the police unions. But I don't know how effective that is, right?
Yeah. So the story out this morning is that one of the 4 cops in Minneapolis tried twice to tell Chauvin that we should roll him over. He may be in distress or whatever. We need to roll him over. And here's the problem with that. The cop that was saying that is his 4th shift ever in the Minneapolis Police Department.
Oh, wow.
And Chauvin was his training officer. So he's trying to countermand the guy who trained him, right? He was right.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's out. That's pretty new this morning. Now, that's what his lawyer is saying. That's going to be that particular police officer's defense.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting to me that the 2 other guys who had been on the force longer, they need not even try.
You cover for each other the whole time. And that's like, how do you break that? That's why, like, I want to hear about this, defund the cops thing, because how do you change that culture except to just wipe it off the face of the earth? Like, I don't know how you get in there and convince people that are cool with murdering people and covering it up, right? and then whatever down, from that, right? Maybe it's just assault, maybe it's just, arresting somebody and planting evidence, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, or whatever, right? Like that, how do you stop that? And I don't really know, but like they were talking about, I can't remember, I think it was on Lawrence. They were talking about the charges that got put on all these guys and how they're pretty tough. And it's almost designed, one of the guys said, to have one of them flip. So I wonder if that's not what we're seeing right now.
It could be. Yeah. Listen. We also had a video last night of the older gentleman. I would say he wasn't much older than me. That was pushed down by the Buffalo Police Department.
Motherfuckers.
He is in stable condition. He survived, because I got to tell you, when he hit the sidewalk,
it looked like
the back of his skull fractured like an egg. But he's in stable condition in a local hospital. But one of the things that I want to point to today is I know that we want something to feel good about right now. I want that. And so when I started seeing police officers marching with BLM protesters, hugging BLM protesters, taking a knee as a group with BLM protesters, I want that to be sincere. I want that to be the majority of cases. But I have to tell you, there's a photograph that was taken the day before this incident with the older gentleman who was pushed down by the Buffalo Police Department in the same spot. You can see the same parking balustrades, those big orbs that keep cars from running up into the front of the police department. Why would anybody want to do that? And of that entire set of riot cops taking a knee with protesters, same cops, or at least the same police department, the Buffalo Police Department, the day before they knocked that old man to the ground and maybe nearly killed him, they were kneeling with the protesters. So I want to feel good when I see things like that happen, but I need to be cautious. I need to trust my African American and people of color, community members, whoever they are, when they say, "Oh, that's great, but we need to see systemic change." Because what's happening here is white people are going to be able to look at those pictures of cops being human beings and go, "Oh, well, we fixed this." In the same way that we looked away once federal civil rights legislation was passed in the 60s, and home ownership rates have not gone up, and economic inequality in African American communities has not gone up. Business ownership has not. None of the benchmarks for successful integration into the main part of our society have gone up since the civil rights era. But Dr. King, we fixed this. We got civil rights legislation, right? We need to be white people. We need to be responsible and more vigilant in holding accountable the power structure that makes those numbers that bad. We need to do that
until there's stringent, stark policy change. This isn't over. Boxer asked, "Are we thinking those secret police are Blackwater Z or whatever the hell the fuck you say that?" I literally said that to Greg yesterday.
Yeah, and I don't want to think that, because now I sound like I'm QAnon.
But like you don't sound like you're QAnon. It's secret. It's exactly what they did in Iraq, Greg. And and it was for exactly the same reason. Yeah. Right? No. These are just private security forces protecting fucking bubbity buck person, blah blah blah. Right? They changed the language. No, it's not. It's not troops, and it's definitely not troops that are going around in Suburbans literally mowing people down for fun. No. That's just private contractors that are still completely above the law. Right?
Outside agitators, if you will.
Right? Yeah. You're like, who are all these people dressed up to start a riot? And it shows a picture of cops. Yeah. So I think the other thing too, I remember seeing military situations where, like in Afghanistan and Iraq, where they're going through sort of like crowds that are really, really riled up. This is years ago, like 10 years ago. And what do? They kneel. De-escalates. Right. And the next day they're fucking bombing hospitals. So,
yeah, it's a tactic that works.
Yep.
All right.
So until there's policy change, none of this matters.
Jenny said, "How about the counterfeit money was not counterfeit?" I haven't heard that yet, Jenny. If you got a link for that, please message it to me. I would like to see, because he was arrested on suspicion of passing a counterfeit $20 bill, and if it turns out the bill was not counterfeit, like Holly Brown told me a story last week that I took wrong when she first posted the story. But I understand it better now. Her dad was a coin and bill collector, a numismatist, coin collector.
Good talk.
And
I wouldn't even, if you just said that word right, I still wouldn't know what you were talking about.
Numismatist? Yes, I did say it right. It just took me a few tries. Yes.
What?
Yes. Numismatist, a person that collects bills or coins.
That's stupid.
Right.
Okay.
Well, so that is weird as philately, which is stamp collecting. Anyway, he had this habit of memorizing the last 4 digits of the serial numbers of all bills that he passed. He just was in the habit of doing that. If he had money in his wallet, he knew the last 4 of every serial number and every bill in his wallet. It was just a habit for years and years of looking at currency bills. Okay, so he goes into a store in somewhere in Central Florida, and he passes $100 bill to the cashier, and they are getting ready to leave the store, and the police roll up. Well, the clerk had called the police to say this man passed a fake $100 bill, and they arrest him, they cuff him, and they immediately took the till out of the register. The police. This is actually pretty smart when I think this is a cop who had seen this trick before, and they secure the till, and they start interrogating the store clerk and him. And he says, no, I actually know the last 4 digits of the serial number of the bill I passed. So they go through the till and they find that $100 bill. And now they're suspicious because, well, he probably made it. That's why he knows the last 4. And he explained, no, I'm a coin and bill collector. That's how I knew it. And then they found a different counterfeit $100 bill in the till. So this clerk had taken the $100 bill and not wanting to get in trouble, because a lot of times clerks are made to pay for whatever, the counterfeit, the business can't deposit that fake $100 bill. Somebody's got to eat it. It's usually the clerk that either gets fired or it has to account for the missing money. So this clerk decided that she would, since this other guy passed a $100 bill, that she would pin it on him, right? But so they let him go and they arrested the store clerk. But the point is, maybe what happened here, that George passed a legitimate $20 bill, and the clerk had a fake 20 in the till from someone else that they had failed to check, and decided to try and pin it on George because he was a large black man. Now we know that the store owner is horrified by that all this happened. Like, he's been very apologetic and like, we never would have expected this to happen. I'm not even sure why my clerk called the police, because we knew that these problems sometimes happen with Minneapolis Police Department. But I'll be interested to hear whether or not that bill was, in fact, if it wasn't counterfeit, that definitely lends support to the idea that Holly expressed, which was the clerk may have been just trying to get by for having accepted a fake 20 from someone else.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Well, that is all lame. Yeah, Sue, Mom, I want to get to your comment as well. But Sue said, Greg, I was looking for the balances of good cops, and the daughter told me she felt that detracted from the message. I need to find the balance for my own preservation, but I get her point. Yeah, like, how many good people were fighting on the Nazi side? Right. Does that change the fact that system had to get wiped off the face of the earth?
Right.
No. Right. And
but Sue, listen. What I want to say to Sue is, I'm sorry that you're uncomfortable. However, my discomfort, my anguish over this is countermanded, is overarched, is blanketed, is erased by how long the African American community has been anguished about this. That I understand that you want to feel good. I do too. But there are
even
times
just look
when we're
for
not
positive for
supposed to feel
solutions,
good.
right?
Yeah. There's, if we take a lot of opiates to mask our back pain, guess what's going to happen? We're going to re-wrench our back and cause ourselves more pain. Maybe we need to be in some pain right now. I'm not saying there's no maybe about it. We need to be in some pain right now.
Yeah. I was telling Greg this morning, like, especially looking at all those videos yesterday and sort of getting reacquainted with how fucking awful it is on the street, is that we're now being treated, because we're putting our bodies in the way as white people, like black people. Like, they've been treated for 400 years. And, so I'm while this is horrendous, I'm glad that we're having to get our faces rubbed in that. Right. So we're now stuck in that same situation. And again, are there good cops? Sure. Cops that have been there for 4 days.
No, I think there are probably some that have been on the force a long time that are good.
Absolutely. Well, and I was going to mention the Fort Lauderdale thing. I believe it was mentioned in a Radio Lab thing about gun violence and de-escalation, because they had a huge de-escalation program in Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
And which, again, is not going to be perfect, but it's a thing they were doing that was working. So, I guess we thread the needle by saying, are there good people in the system? Sure. Does the system need to completely fucking change right now? Yes. Right. 100%.
But it won't, right? We need, but incrementalism is the only way to tackle this, because they're going to fight for their funding. They're gonna make the argument that ooga booga, big scary monsters are on your streets and only we can protect you, right? They're going to protect their ability to have huge budgets and dress up like Captain Marvel. That's
Right.
what's going to happen here. And so we're not going to eradicate them all at once. Furthermore, in many places, such as Florida, county sheriff is an elected position. People are not going to give up that elected power easily. They're just not, right? Sue's saying, well, who keeps track of private militias? How do we know who they are, where they're from? The FBI and the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
Bill Barr is who's ultimately responsible for enforcing
I mean, those
surveillance
assholes,
of those groups.
those shitheads could have been Proud Boys for all we know. Speaking of which, Mom said, "Do you see the video? Police officer moving Proud Boys into a building, telling them police were about to fire tear gas, but they didn't want to appear to be unfair." The guy in the video says, "We don't want to look like we're playing favorites."
Right.
Right.
It's not that we don't want to play favorites. We just don't want to be seen
And
playing
I'm telling you right now, like the Antifa protests that happened years ago after Trump was elected, in Portland. The reason why it became such a street battle is that Proud Boys and other like right-wing white nationalist protester groups came into Portland and coordinated with the motherfucking sheriff to make sure that they turned violent. Right. Like this was a thing that happened. So it's just a thing that's still happening. And that honestly, it's worth going back and listening to the Chris Hayes show from yesterday, because he had this lady on that basically wrote the book on fascism, and it's just fucking capital D dark. So it's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I want to talk for a minute about a local thing. I met a young lady the other night at the downtown Newport Richey protests named Caitlin, and Caitlin is organizing the protests that have happened on Main Street in Newport Richey. 25 to 30 people walking from the library up to US 19 along Main Street and Black, and they are very loud. And they are some.
No,
but
dude, you
mostly
said
not.
walking up to 19 in Black.
Did I really?
You did.
I'm a racist. Screen cap that. I'm sure I'll hear about it later.
Oh god, that's funny.
Anyway, I actually wasn't there for either night when they walked up to 19 and Back, but at the other night when it was very rainy, I went, I guess Wednesday evening, and they were standing in front of the Newport Richey Public Library, maybe 20 people. There were signs, there were chants, and a young girl about 8 years old was leading most of the chants, because one of the older ladies had taught her, Black lives, and everybody would respond matter. So this little 8-year-old was leading most of the chants. She was very, she was very, very lit up. Right across the street, 8 police, 4 vehicles, 8 police officers right across the street watching the whole time. I walked the perimeter to make sure there weren't people acting a fool, outside of the immediate zone where the protest was going on. Anyway, I had a really good short conversation with the organizer. She was busy organizing, but she is going to be on our show Monday morning. She is organizing some local protests. And one of the things that I think is most compelling about this young lady is she says, I want to be really clear that I'm not a Black Lives Matter activist. I just wanted to do something, and I'm holding space for Black Lives Matter to come to me and say, hey, we got this. And holding space means those of us that are not members of the African American community need to make sure that we're taking direction from and guidance from our friends and activists who are members of that community. That's who, not because we want to put them in front. Frankly, I'm very happy to stand out in front of them and watch for cars that are speeding towards us. But we need to make sure we recognize their leadership on this issue and their long experience with dealing with this, and their powerful voices, and make sure that they are leading. And I thought it was really cool that Caitlin said right away, yeah, I'll come on and talk about police brutality with you guys, but I'm not a leader of BLM. I'm not a spokesperson for any organization. Not that she was avoiding or deflecting responsibility, but she wants to make sure that African Americans have space to stand forward and take leadership in this in this situation. So she's going to be on with us Monday. She messaged me because I sent her the link after we went on, and I got a message where it says, your show has me so hyped right now, I can't wait. so she's going to be fired up. What you need to know, this evening there is a walk around Orange Lake that's organized by a different group. I'm not very familiar with the organizer, but there's going to be a walk from the Hacienda Hotel around Orange Lake and back to the Hacienda. And then on Sunday, our friend Caitlin is organizing a protest at the Wawa corner at US 19 and State Road 54, down Newport Richey / Holiday Way, right by near Zenfinity. So for those of you in West Pasco County, if you'd like to attend a rally by this young woman who is doing the local organizing, that happens Sunday. And I'll get the time and everything and put it on the So Local Live page. I'll blast it all over Facebook because that's what I do. So I just want to talk about that. Oh, Sherry says there were two behind us and undercover circling the block. By the way, yeah, the two behind us kind of walked by like they came out of the city hall area, and they asked how we were doing. You know, how you doing? We're good. How are you guys doing? But they were definitely being very watchful the other night.
Well, this brings up Sue's point, because I think like this to me, I've been asking people for evidence that Antifa is actually out there at all. And you know, there's like been a couple little things, but honestly, I don't believe it yet at all. Because again, if Trump and Barr say it, just automatically assume that it's bullshit.
Right.
And of course, there's been a lot of evidence up to including statements from the FBI that say that it's bullshit. So Sue asked, how easy would it be for non-sanctioned militia groups to infiltrate the protests? And honestly, I think that's rampant. I think because like you're tired of the boogaloos, which I didn't even know was a fucking thing until now. Like, you racist pieces of shit.
You know why I'm mad at them. You know why I'm mad at them.
Annoying.
You know why I'm
let's have a race war. I mean, because they're assholes.
Hawaiian shirts.
Is that really what they do?
Yes, those motherfuckers
dare they
have co-opted my Hawaiian shirt. Yeah,
that's bullshit. I mean, now we know who's really been affronted in this whole thing.
You know, white rage. Here it is. Oh my god.
Oh no.
But yeah, the infiltration problem is real, and and by the way, the Minneapolis police themselves have a history of infiltrating protest groups and damaging them by committing crimes in the name of that protest group. They've done this before. You know, all through the 60s and 70s, they were doing this.
That's what the white nationalists on Twitter that had their collection of accounts taken down. That's what they were doing. And I honestly, like, I think, you know, I saw somebody posted a picture about a protest for like to all meet at like Mitchell School or whatever. I thought it looked like bait to me from cops, to be honest.
Right.
But now I wonder if that's not what this was. Dreen saying, yes, I'm a little skeptical of our protest tonight, organized by someone I don't know with a fake-looking profile, white gal promoting her Instagram. The sketchiness has got me on edge. It's the thing, like I think that this has been a huge part of it. Like and there's even video of this one, asshole white kid fucking breaking glass with his skateboard, who gets yanked back by this tall black protesters. Guy. And you could tell that kid was turning around like he was going to hit something with his skateboard and had to look way up to see the other guy, and immediately thought better of it. Oh, like, yeah, you should probably sit the fuck down, buddy.
On the first or second night of the Minneapolis protest, we were following a live streamer named Simone Scott, a young woman who's a high school for the arts student. I don't think she's even 18 years old. And she was very vocal and very amazing in the moment, live streaming. But throughout the evening, when she was standing on the front line getting tear gassed, people were throwing stuff at the cops, and she would turn around and yell, "Stop throwing shit!" Like, and I'm seeing widespread evidence that the organizers themselves are policing their own crowd and telling them not to throw things at police, because they know what happens when that happens. They know that people are going to get hurt. They know that does not help the message. So I'm super, super proud of the BLM organizers and all. I mean, this is brewed up very quickly. You know, and they're a self-trained organization, you know, and this all starts with Trayvon Martin. We would not even know about the Trayvon Martin story were it not for Black Lives Matter. We just wouldn't know.
Yeah,
we wouldn't know. And so they need to be given respect and space in this conversation. And it's up to us, white people, to make sure that when our friends say, "Oh, Black Lives Matter are terrorists," we countermand that. We immediately challenge that. And it's been a real hard week on Facebook, and I'm fucking tired. I'm really tired of people I know who have the privilege to look away from all this, the privilege to, I'm shutting off social media for the day because I can't handle it. But and I don't want you to think that means I think you shouldn't take a day off. I think you should. But I'm watching a lot of people talk about how it's just not their problem. No, it is your problem. And let me tell you something else. If we reduce police brutality, police abuse, and police killings, white people are going to benefit. It's not just black people or our Latin American friends or our Native American friends that are going to benefit from this. If there's less violence committed by police, less actual crime and graft committed by police, we all benefit from that. In the same way that if we raise boys to be feminist men, it's not just women that will benefit. It's boys and men that will benefit as well. We're trapped in our own violence. And I mean that as a man, and I mean that as a white person. We are trapped in the violence that we've created. Just, maybe not as severely, but we are still trapped by it. And if we have the overwhelming majority to change it, Black people don't. What's the racial makeup of our Congress? It's probably 20% African American, 15%. I don't know. I'll bet you Ginny knows. In the Senate and the House, right? When you look, take a broad view of law enforcement agencies in America, there's like 18,000 police jurisdictions in America, and 0.3%, 1/3 of 1% of the leaders of those organizations are women. They're vastly underrepresented.
Yep.
Right. So,
yeah, Mom said Reverend Al gave the best eulogy I've ever heard before. Rachel actually played the vast majority of it last night, and I heard it yesterday afternoon. The thing that got me twice, luckily I wasn't on the internet, or I would have had to timestamp it, is that it's a new time. So that, the protest they were doing back in the 60s, he would have people going by and basically calling him a nigger, and just telling him to fucking go home and all that shit, right? And he told a story about this little 8-year-old girl comes up and tugs on his suit jacket. He's looking around for it. He has to look down, and he has this moment of memory, thinking back to that, and she looks up at him and says, "What is it? I can't remember now. The fucking no peace thing.
No justice, no peace.
Yeah, that's the one. Anyway, 8 years old.
Yeah, Brady quit. You don't see color, Karen? How do you stop for a stoplight then?"
Yeah, and I mean, like the number of times, and I think they'll probably become iconic, where there's one video where there's this young black man kneeling in front of a line of riot cops that are starting to act more and more aggressive, and like 4 white guys go and stand in front of him.
Yeah, the ultimate play on the South Park, Operation Hide Behind Blackie. And I'm fine with that. I'm physically, personally okay with being in front of our African American friends in this moment, and I think that's where every right-minded human being ought to be, is out in front of this. There's more that we can do. By the way, let's talk about our local elected officials for a minute and their complete silence on this issue. The only law enforcement agency that I've seen issue a statement that I thought was supportive of this movement was the Dade City Police Chief. And guess why? Because that's where they have a pretty strong African American community in Dade City. I haven't heard our sheriff speak up about supporting Black Lives Matter and peaceful protest. I haven't heard the New Port Richey or the Port Richey Chief of Police say anything about that. Not a word. Let's talk about our county commissioners. Has anybody heard from their county commissioners that they are respectful of this protest movement and they want everybody to be safe and be able to speak their mind in public? What I saw from Catherine Starkey was, why aren't the cops protecting that Target store in Philly?
Jesus.
To the point where I screen capped it.
Yeah, she's an ultra Karen. I mean, that's I mean, it doesn't
peak Karening right
peak
there.
Karen, legit.
I know she's a Catherine, but she's really more of a Karen.
It's a slight spelling error.
Yeah. By the way, why was I completely not surprised? Because this is the Catherine Starkey that puts zoning board people in her car, drives around, and when they find a business where there's homeless people living or staying, she has them threaten the building owner with having to evict those people or face fines. And she also told me directly to my face one day that when she sees homeless people in her neighborhood, Gulf Harbors, which is a kind of upscale residential neighborhood, she calls the police every time because that makes their lives better. That's who she is. Also, I want to just take a minute and say I managed to punch Jack Mariano right in the dick yesterday. So that's always a good thing when that happens. Our county commissioner, Jack Mariano.
How did you get between him and the doorknob?
Well, a concerned citizen sent me a photograph, a photo they took on their phone, a Circle K store in Trinity on State Road 54. the Circle K store there had a table out with clipboards with petitions to get Jack Mariano on the ballot for county commissioner, and there was a sign that said, "Get a free soda, ask the cashier." Now, the reason that sign says "ask the cashier" is because if it had said it on the sign, it would be immediately obvious that they're breaking the law. But essentially, if you filled out a petition for Jack Mariano to get on the ballot, you got a free soda. It's paying for votes. It's illegal. You're not allowed to do that.
So yeah, okay. Like, have you talked to the commissioner of elections about that yet?
I have not specifically. I've messaged him and emailed him, but other people have also contacted him who probably have a better relationship with him than I do.
Okay.
You will remember he withdrew his support for Vote Fest because I'm a liberal back in the day.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Right. So anyway, this is the thing. This is comically, the deadline for petitions was 3 weeks ago.
So they're still doing it?
Yeah, so they're breaking the law in a way that's not benefiting Jack Mariano in any way. So here's what I want to suggest to you today is I want you to go to that Circle K, get you a free soda.
Get a free pop.
Take a picture of that sign and send it to the supervisor of elections office if you have 20 minutes to spare today. It is the one at Success Drive in Trinity, right across from the Goodwill store. And so I'm sure what's going to happen is the Mariano campaign is going to say, "Oh, well, we didn't know that was happening." How many other places do you think they're paying people for their petition signatures in this county?
Could be dozens.
Dozens, right? Also, I want to point out that the person that's running to replace Jack Mariano as a county commissioner is in our comment thread right now. Her name is Brandy Goyette. So we would like you to contact Brandy, to go to her campaign page, to make a donation to get her elected, because we don't need a county commissioner that pays to get his name on the ballot, or pays people to sign his petition so he doesn't have to pay to get on the ballot. We want this guy gone. There are lots of indicators that Jack Mariano is not acting in the best interests of our community. Where's his statement about Black Lives Matter?
Well, that's the thing. Instead of making a statement about Black Lives Matter,
you could change you would get statewide media attention if you came on this show on Monday and expressed your support for Black Lives Matter and peaceful protest. I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You don't even have to say Black Lives Matter. If you come on here and you say you're in favor of peaceful protest, we'll be very happy. We'll send that video to news agencies ourselves.
You can also correct the record and again, like, I heard this as a rumor. So like, there's no substantiating this whatsoever. But again, I heard it, and we just pass rumors along. That's what we do in the era of Trump. So you could come on and let us know that you aren't in fact addicted to licking doorknobs. I mean, then the story would be clear. We would all know, and then I could stop saying it. Did I just ruin it? I just ruined it.
No, it's okay. Like that was so long ago now that I don't think most of these folks remember that Jack Mariano was accused of licking doorbells.
Yeah, well,
again, we don't even know that it was credible.
We heard, yeah, it was totally unconfirmed.
It's not like it was one of those fancy Ring doorbells with the camera in them.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that no video exists of Jack Mariano licking doorbells. It's just a thing we heard.
And seriously, like, the FBI has made a statement suggesting that isn't the case. But again, like, other people are saying. See what I did there?
Yeah, so you're going to believe the FBI? You're going to believe the Comey-struck FBI?
Oh my God!
Could you? You're gonna trust the deep state on this?
I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, but there is something from. I know it's weird, but it's gonna happen. But could you vamp for a little bit? I know we're on the hour, but there's something that that I need to read out because we haven't even touched on General Mattis yet.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go to the comments for a little bit. And giving away soda for nothing. Yeah, that kind of cracked me right up. I'll bet they will accept every one of those late petitions. Jen, I actually have more confidence in our supervisor of elections than that. The deadline has passed. But what I want to know is if they were doing this 5 weeks ago, how many petitions that they did accept were taken in places where basically bribes were given for those signatures? And does that then disqualify Jack Mariano from running for county commission? It should. It should disqualify him. And here's the thing. Oh, but both sides, all politicians, blah, blah, fucking blah. Listen, I ran for office, and I'm intimately familiar with the campaigns of several people who have run and are currently running for office. And there is absolutely zero number of Democrats in this county, zero number, that have a meeting and somebody says, hey, we can pay people a hot dog for signing a petition, where somebody else in the room doesn't go, no, we can't fucking do that. There were things I wanted to do in my campaign that I was told I was not allowed to do. Guess who told me those things? Not the supervisor of elections. The Democratic Party of Pasco County told me I could not do those things. So is the Republican Party then not telling campaigns that they can't do these things? What's going on there? Did he just wildcat this and decide to do it himself? If so, why does the Republican Party of Pasco County allow him to run as a Republican if they know he's doing this heinous shit and not being held accountable for it? Interesting questions. Yep. He posted that meme that was anti-Muslim. Seriously, do you think he supports diversity and inclusion? Yeah, he absolutely posted a heinous meme about Ilhan Omar. And by the way,
what?
I was also the person that screenshot that. Jack Mariano's racist post about 9/11 and Ilhan Omar.
Yeah,
I was maybe 3 when that happened, so I'm sure she's personally responsible. All Muslims are personally responsible for, I guess, in the same way that all cops are personally responsible for the death of George Floyd.
And all white people are Nazis.
Right.
It's just fucking people are so completely stupid sometimes that it drives me nuts. Anyway, so
wait. Lori Bersani, who I consider an authority on this, says that Jack Mariano is a total habitual doorbell licker.
Oh, well, see, that's the thing. Like, you can't.
Confirmation of our suspicions.
100%. I mean, Lori's a very smart person. You can't just discount what Lori says about that stuff. Yep.
My goodness.
Anyways,
people are saying Mariano does it, and Mariano hasn't said he didn't. So
that's the thing. Right. Like,
he's never made it. He's never made any kind of a public.
He's never made it clear. Right. It's like, what has Antifa said that they're not protesting?
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
what is wrapped up in Corey's bed? I believe that would be. I think I see Brian's face sticking out there.
That's the Brian.
Yeah, big Brian.
Brian, what's up? Can you lift your head so that people know you aren't dead?
No,
you can't.
Roll over. Good boy. He did so fast we didn't even see it.
Play tired annoyed dog who isn't doing anything.
No,
good boy.
Wait, she's saying he is to the right of the bluish sheet. Is there something else curled up on your? I don't know. Murder victim? I'm not sure what's going on.
No, that's a long pillow.
Okay, it actually does kind of look like a person under there.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no. Just a pillow. So I kind of want to live in a world where I can go back to disagreeing with General Mattis about things like bombing civilians.
Right.
But we're not there yet. And realizing that somebody like Mattis, who said they would never speak ill against this president on principle, who sees the military get used in a way that is deeply offensive and quite frankly, completely counter to what we all thought the whole U.S. democracy experience was supposed to be about. Experiment, sorry. And so I want to read his whole statement because all I could find was articles showing little bits of it. But this is the whole thing. In union, there is strength. I've watched this week's unfolding events, angry and appalled. The words equal justice under law are carved in the pediment of the United States Supreme Court. This is precisely what protesters are rightly demanding. It is wholesome and unifying. It is a wholesome and unifying demand, one that all of us should be able to get behind. We must not be distracted by a small number of lawbreakers. The protests are defined by tens of thousands of people of conscience who are insisting that we live up to our values as people and our values as a nation. When I joined the military some 50 years ago, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Never did I dream that troops taking that same oath would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens, much less to provide a bizarre photo op for the elected commander-in-chief with military leadership standing alongside. We must reject any thinking of our cities as a battle space that our uniformed military is called upon to dominate. At home, we should use our military only when requested to do so on very rare occasions by state governors. Militarizing
by
our
who?
response,
Wait, by who?
By governors.
The state governors.
State governors.
Yeah.
Just to be fair. Militarizing our response, as we witnessed in Washington, D.C., sets up a false conflict between the military and civilian society. It erodes the moral ground that ensures a trusted bond between men and women in uniform and the society they are sworn to protect, and of which they themselves are a part. Keeping public order rests with civilian, state, and local leaders who best understand their communities and are answerable to them. James Madison wrote in Federalist 14 that America united with a handful of troops or without a single soldier exhibits a more foreboding posture to foreign ambition than America disunited with 100,000 veterans ready for combat. We do not need to militarize our response to protests. We need to unite around a common purpose and it starts by guaranteeing that all of us are equal before the law. Instructions given by the military departments to our troops before the Normandy invasion reminded soldiers that the Nazi slogan for destroying us was divide and conquer. Our American answer is in union, there is strength. We must summon that unity to surmount this crisis, confident that we are better than our politics. I would just like to point out, we have been suggesting that this asshole is a baby Hitler for quite a while. This is the ex-Secretary of Defense, gigantically respected military general, basically suggesting the same.
Who had the name Mad Dog long before Trump says he named him that.
Exactly. Trump lied about like literally everything in his little hissy fit tweet against him, lied about every word of it. Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us. We are witnessing the consequences of 3 years of this deliberate effort. We are witnessing the consequences of 3 years without mature leadership. We can unite without it, drawing on the strengths inherent in our civil society. This will not be easy, as the past few days have shown, but we owe it to our fellow citizens, to past generations that bled to defend our promise, and to our children. We can come through this trying time stronger and with a renewed sense of purpose and respect for one another. The pandemic has shown us that it is not only our troops who are willing to offer the ultimate sacrifice for the safety of community. Americans in hospitals, grocery stores, post offices, and elsewhere have put their lives on the line in order to serve their fellow citizens and their country. We know that we are better than the abuse of executive authority that we witnessed in Lafayette Square. We must reject and hold accountable those in office who would make a mockery of our Constitution. At the same time, we must remember Lincoln's better angels and listen to them as we work to unite. Only by adopting a new path, which means in truth returning to the original path of our founding fathers, will we again be a country admired and respected at home and abroad. I sort of feel like the election's over.
No,
but of course it's very not.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
so
no.
I'm glad we managed to keep our focus mostly on police brutality today. I recognized yesterday that I was getting distracted by other things because the president is actively trying to distract us from the central focus of what this conversation should be about. It should not be about looting. It should not be about property destruction. It should be about police brutality and the unequal weight with which that brutality lands on people of color. That is what we need to talk about. And anybody who's trying to sway us off of that conversation is doing so maybe not because they're evil, but because they're misguided, because it's not a problem for them, so it's not a problem for anybody. Whatever the reasoning is, our job is to show them to take this conversation right back to the central point, which is that Black Lives Matter. And that's important because we've shown that they don't matter as much. And now we need to show that they matter every bit as much.
Yep.
That they've suffered far more than we have. And that we, white America, we can make a difference. And we must make a difference. If we're not using our privilege for this, what the fuck are we doing? That's the central idea.
Since I'm the one who's the most terrible at pep talks, I have to read 3 tweets that just came in a couple of minutes ago. Apparently, Trump is giving a press conference right now, and it's going swimmingly. John Favreau, depression era unemployment, 100,000 plus dead, millions sick, massive protests, police riots, and Trump is giving a celebratory press conference. Not sure I've ever heard a president sound so divorced from reality that most Americans are facing. Hilariously out of touch. What the fuck is even happening right now? Angry staffer. Trump. George is looking down and saying this is a great thing that's happening for our country. So not only is he willing to use the Bible for a prop, but he's going to use George for a prop too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably a good place to end this.
Yeah. Run away.
As I'm face palming furiously over here. I'm glad you tuned into us instead of the president today, because we're at least a little more coherent, a little, I would hope. But the economy will be great next year. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. All right. So that's going to do it for today. Listen, we got a couple of guests. We were going to have Kelly Smith on this morning. She couldn't make it. She had a work thing come up. So we'll get her on as quickly as possible. But our friend Caitlin is going to join us on Monday, and she is super fired up. Sunday afternoon, there is a protest that's going to happen on the Wawa corner. That's let me do the math. the northeast corner of State Road 54 and US 19. And I intend to be there. There is a walk around Orange Lake in downtown Newport Richey tonight that starts at 5 o'clock. They're gathering at the Hacienda Hotel at 5 o'clock. I intend to be there for that. I'll probably be a little late. I have another thing I have to do first. But please participate. Please get out and show that you are conscious of police brutality, even if it's not a thing that's a problem with the immediate jurisdiction that you live in. I got to tell you, I stood out there for an hour and a half the other night, and almost everybody that drove by waved with more than one finger. There was a lot of support for people being out protesting. There were 2 or 3 assholes that drove by and revved their engines and yelled "All Lives Matter" or "Trump 2020" out the window. And big surprise, stereotypically, the last one was in a giant white pickup truck with a giant American flag hanging off the bumper. Who was shocked that that's how that guy felt. But anyway, there was a lot of support out there, and we need to show more support. Not by driving by and honking, but actually stopping and getting out of your car and showing your solidarity with our local minority communities who bear the brunt of police brutality when it occurs. We are above the national average in Pasco County in killings of Black people by our sheriff's office, and that can change. Even though the number is small, the disparity should be 0. How about we work for a world where no one gets killed by police, but we focus right now on those who are bearing the brunt of that police brutality, and that is our communities of color. And let's fix it. Let's fucking fix it. Register to vote. Support local candidates who are Black Lives Matter. Brandy Goyette, strong Black Lives Matter supporter. Daniel Antonino, running for state legislature to replace Amber Mariano, strong Black Lives Matter support. Tammy Garcia, strong Black Lives Matter support. We actually have 2 African Americans running as Democrats in this race, clearly supportive of the cause. So let's get out there and register ourselves and register others to vote. Make phone calls for local candidates because that matters too. Maybe as much or more than Trump matters at this point. Saying maybe the election's in the bag. It's not in the bag for Brandy. It's not in the bag for Dan. It's not in the bag for Tammy, and it's not in the bag for all these people that are running to replace a power structure, a local power structure that has said jack shit about this issue, and they all need to go, and we can do that. So that's what I want us to focus on. All right.
David Axelrod 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that at real Donald Trump is going to end this ebullient stream of consciousness by awarding himself the Medal of Freedom.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
That's a thing.
Or the Minneapolis police union head.
Bob Kroll, God,
that guy.
Dude. Okay, now I just want to drink heavily.
Right, and do not let people gaslight you. There you go. Pepper balls are tear gas. They are an irritant. Yep, that's absolutely true. All right, love you guys very much. That's it for hashtag coffee for today. Church on Sunday. We doing church on Sunday?
I think so.
All right, church on Sunday. We'll be back for that right here on the YouTubes, and back Monday with another show. Sasquatch is real. Oh, I got to press the button.
You have the button.